So the start of a new mini-series to take us through to the end of FM24 over the next few weeks. We are taking on a Manchester United kind of let's play, rebuild, tactical rebuild in the basis that we look at Ruben Amorim's tactic, positions, players, tactics that need tweaking, and we're going to follow the journey over the next few weeks. So, if you watched the video that I put out last week, I think it was, or the week before, we spoke about this tactic right here, which was a 5-4-1 that they played against Liverpool and Arsenal and got some success out of it. And then when they've been playing that general 3-4-3, they've struggled against, in particular, Brighton, Southampton, Bournemouth. They've really struggled. So we decided that we would start with this tactic and then evolve as we go. I've had to restart the save. We started really well actually using this tactic. Even though the attacking play was not great, it was giving us a lot of clean sheets. However, because I'd set this database up for my tactic video and not a let's play video, basically I only had the Premier League loaded. I made the database really small, and some of the players that I really wanted on my shortlist, we didn't have them in the game. So Stila, that is at Stuttgart, and Dorgu, who's at Lecce, two players that have been linked on and off with Manchester United over the past couple of weeks and months. Them two in particular, I would like to see at the club at some point during this save, and they were in the database. So I've had to reset. And then with that, I had a few little thoughts. Manchester United, we know, have really struggled with the right wing-back slot and the left wing-back slot. We know about the issues on the left, but also the issues on the right. And what I thought we would do is change it up and give it a little bit more of attacking flair. So what we've actually gone with in Season 1 is something like this. All right? The reasons behind it are, and they're based actually on Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen. I will leave that video link down in the description. That's because of the right wing-back, right centre-back, right midfield, whatever you want to call it. Basically, these three players here. So at Leverkusen, it was Kusunu, Frimpong, and then maybe a Hoffman, sometimes a Teller, depending on who was playing at that time. But the idea is that in possession, the team then kind of goes across like this. We would have the inverted winger coming in, and then the midfielder moving up. So that would be the Frimpong. We get this sort of like, a bit like a 4-2-3-1, if you include the left wing back as that. Now, the issues that we've got in the game have been quite considerable. And we're going to talk about this over the course of the season and the save, how we get different roles coming. Because of how the rules work in FM, in and out of possession, it's really difficult. So the issue that I've got is some people will say, why can't you put that defensive winger here? Well, the issue with that is we don't get the good at attacking output that you get actually from a defensive winger. The negative part is when Leverkusen lose possession and when Amorim loses possession, he wants these two to drop in to make it look like that. However, because of what the in and out of possession stuff is, even though I've got at the moment Mark's specific position, which is AML left, so the left winger, track the left winger, he does it sometimes, but he doesn't tuck in. He'll often just hold his run. And so he'll hold his position in these areas, and it hasn't quite worked. I'm praying for FM25 we get a little bit more in terms of out of possession, because it's kind of not killed the tactic because we've started pretty well. It looks okay. It's just a couple of niggly things that we can't quite replicate. What we have got is, though, wide centre-back on support. Now, I have gone Mazraoui, but we're also going to use Lenny Yoro in this position as well. I think having a right-sided centre-half like Mazraoui, who's really flexible. He did actually play a couple of games at the start of his Manchester United career under, not Ten Hag, sorry, under Amorim. First few games, he did play as a right centre-back. So it does work. And then he's a little bit better in terms of ball possession, progressing the pass. Garnacho then coming in. It's not quite worked 100%, but these two are producing pretty decent performances and numbers. Just a couple of things sometimes in the match engine that looks a little bit off. Now, what I will do is the 5-4-1 is already available for Patreons, which was the original kind of Liverpool and Arsenal tactic. And then all the tactics that I've done so far and throughout the series will be available for my Patreons. If you want to support the channel, in particular with FM25, there is going to be so many tactics and shortlists and training ideas and all sorts on Patreon. And if you enjoy this content as well, I'd really appreciate if you go support the channel for £3 a month. That is kind of the tactical aspect. We're going to tweak things as we go through the season. Let's talk about the players. So to do that, we're going to use we're kind of going to hold the tactic that we're going to start with, the Amorim Real Build 1. And then we're going to go through all the positions, talk about which is in desperate need, what's not in desperate need, what is kind of covered, what have we got coming through the youth system, etc. So, goalkeepers is an issue for me. However, it is not a ginormous issue. So, we haven't got the transfer window on now. We might be able to do a little bit in January, but the main thing will be the end of season 1. We'll be able to do it. However, I'm not looking at changing Onana during that season. I'm not going to do like the typical FM rebuild here, where I sell 10 and sign 10 and spend 500 million and get in 400. I'm going to try and make it a little bit realistic. We're also going to talk about as well my shortlist that I've done. The realisticness? Is that a word? I don't think it is. The realism about the shortlist that I've created. And we're not in terms of looking at players that are good in FM. We're looking at maybe some younger players that we know have got good potential and some players that Manchester United have been linked to, and then good players in and around Europe that Manchester United should be looking at to strengthen in certain areas. So the goalkeeper, I'm not happy with it. I also want an English number 2 because that helps with squad dynamics in terms of registration, not dynamics, registration. So that's important. So maybe in the summer, we might try and get out a Bayinda. I would like to bring in sort of like maybe a Sam Johnston, who's Manchester United trained, early 30s. Tom Heaton's not great, but we are going to keep him until he retires as third choice. We have also got in the mix as well, Vitek, who I do actually like at Manchester United. He's out on loan at the moment. He looks like he could be a half-decent backup. If he's trained at the club as well, that would be absolutely ideal. So goalkeeper for now, not a problem, but we will talk about it. It's a good idea for putting suggestions, as always, down in the comments. We talk about positions, put your suggestions, not FM suggestions, real-life suggestions, goalkeeper, go for it. Right, the right-sided centre-half. Now, this needs to be someone who can carry the ball because we're looking at that wide centre-back on support. So someone who's comfortable at playing right-back and centre-half. Now, Manchester United don't really have it. Luke Shaw, definitely not. Matthijs de Ligt has done it a little bit, so we're going to leave him in. Lisandro, no, because he's left-footed. Harry Maguire, no, because he's getting to the age that he's probably not going to be able to cover those wide areas. Johnny Evans, no. So that kind of leaves us 3. I am going to add into the mix. And once again, we've got to think about Mazraoui and Dalot. Neither of them really suit the wing-back roles. However, we're not going to be able to sell them both during season 1. At the end of season 1, I think that's unrealistic. So I'm looking at potentially keeping Mazraoui because he can play as a right centre-back. He can also fill in as a wing-back as well if needed. My first choice would be Lenny, with Matthijs de Ligt being a little bit of a backup. He's going to be my main starter in the middle, in the centre of the middle. Victor Lindelof has got a year left on his deal. I am going to try and sell him in January. He will be going either on a free at the end of the season or out on some kind of fee in January. And then Mazraoui as the third choice. I think we're quite covered there for now. Not amazing, but not a priority. DC, the central defender on defend. Now, sorry guys, I absolutely love Harry Maguire. I think he's actually played really well over the last 18 months in a team that has been absolutely terrible. His personal performance have generally been pretty good. We will be going with De Ligt as the centre of them. I'm not looking at Lenny Yoro playing there. I'm not looking at Victor Lindelof. I think we're covered. Johnny Evans is a decent backup to have for the rest of the season. Those 3 in there. Harry Maguire will no doubt get plenty of game time if Matthijs de Ligt has to move to the right-hand side. The left-hand side's a little bit different. No De Ligt. We're going to talk about a naturally left-footers, and we've just got the 2 really. I'm not going to include Johnny Evans in this. We're looking at 2. Lisandro, my first choice, obviously, and then we're going to use Luke Shaw throughout this save, not as a wing-back. He's going to literally be third-choice wing-back at left wing-back. But the idea is, can he be a decent wide centre-back at left-back and covering Lisandro, who will no doubt play most of the time. We can move some players maybe out there. Mazraoui, if we bring him in, I'm happy for Mazraoui to be a little bit of a backup because I believe he's not bad. Yeah, he's reasonable on his left foot, so he could do half a job there if needed. Potentially we need to strengthen there. I'm also curious as well that in terms of FM, big teams always come in for Lisandro. The big 2 in Spain, Paris Saint-Germain always come in as well for him when I've done Man United saves. So I'm thinking, we maybe need a long-term left centre-back. I'm actually thinking English. I don't know what you Man United fans think, but when we had Fergie in charge, we always went out and bought the best English Premier League players or general Premier League players. If you think of Van Persie, obviously not English, but Berbatov, Carrick, Ferdinand, Rooney, Andy Cole, the list goes on and on and on. So I think we need to bring in some English players. So I am looking at potentially Jared Branthwaite being that left-sided centre-back as an option. But that will only probably come in unless we have an opportunist signing in terms of him, where other clubs are wanting to sign him. I think we need to jump on it. Or when Lisandro goes, because every time a bid does come in, he generally wants to go. So yeah, that's the thought behind that. I think we're covered for now. Season 1, we don't have to worry. The right holding midfielder is going to be a little bit of an issue. We're wanting this ball-winning midfielder, so we know it's going to be Ugarte, with Casemiro being the backup. It says Kobbie can do it, but Kobbie is not good at winning the ball back. I'm very surprised if... I think maybe down the line when he gets a little bit better physically, we could maybe do a double pivot of him and another player. But for right now, I'm kind of happy. Casemiro's going to be a decent... We're going to get rid of Tommy Rowe. We're going to get rid of Eriksen out of that. And I'm not going to play Mazraoui. I don't think that's... It's potentially an option Man United could look at, but I don't think they are. We need to sign him in here. We kind of need to sign someone who's going to be a dual role. Someone who can do a little bit of ball winning, but at the same time can do this 8 role, which is no doubt going to change throughout the series. So Kobbie is a third choice. Unfortunately, Manchester United have been playing, let me get him, Toby Collier. He has good physicality, can get about the pitch. He's no more, attacking-wise isn't great. However, the game doesn't see him as outflash in particular. Tackling not great, but his physicals don't look too bad. So we may have him around in the squad. It'd be good to get rid of Casemiro, Eriksen, those sorts of players, and have him in there. But I do think the player that we signed for this other midfield role needs to also be able to do this role as well, which is going to be that sort of like Ugarte ball-winning role. So we don't have to constantly rely on Ugarte in there. The left side, we are starting with a Volante, but I'm also going to use Roman Playmaker. I'm trying to think of the Sporting tactic. Is it Morita, who played there under Amorim alongside Ugarte, would often play this kind of starting deeper, but would venture into the final third. So it needs to have a good physical profile with a little bit of technical quality. Ugarte, I'm not looking at it. Casemiro can be a backup. Ugarte, not looking at it. Christian Eriksen, no. The other options that we've got, Bruno that can play a little bit deeper, but I would love to see in this role, whenever he gets himself fit, Mason Mount. I think that's a really good option. For now, we're going to go Kobbie, but Mason as a backup alongside Kobbie. Bruno Fernandes doing it a little bit as well. You know, they've just done that last night. They had Bruno playing in the deeper role. Didn't quite work, but I think that's down to the issues that we've got in the final third with the front 3 players more than anything else. I'm looking for a 6/8. That's why I wanted to start the save again, because I do like Angelo Stiller. Watched a lot of him when I covered the Stuttgart video a few months ago. And he has decent physicals at his young age, but can do a little, you know, his tackling's fine, 12. I think in a really strong side, a double pivot of him and Kobbie wouldn't be too bad. A double pivot of him and Mason wouldn't be too bad if Ugarte is out. And then a double pivot of him and Ugarte against bigger sides, I think would work tremendously well. So I got my eye on him. Let me know what you think to that down in the comments. As I said, always put suggestions down below. Right, we know the left wing back is an issue. I'm not including Luke Shaw. All right, so the other options at the moment, Diogo Dalot, Mazraoui, and the youngster Harry Mas, which in this game, it depends how good he is, but this game he's been given a really good profile. So this is the options that we got, and it's not great. Malacia is someone that I'm going to have to use this season. He's going to be a little bit of a backup. I'm going to go with Dalot because he's playing more often than not. However, I do think one of the two, if we're going to go down this 3, one out of the 2 of Mazraoui and potentially Dalot could go. And I do think probably Dalot holds a better value. So that might be something that we do in the summer. When we look to sign someone, we will do what Manchester United are going to try and do. We are going to try and bring Dogu in January. See if that can be a deal, can be done. Mazraoui can do that. And as I said, Malacia is going to be our backup like he kind of currently is at the moment. And then after season 1, we will try and ship him off anywhere. Harry Mas will be our backup for next season. So the idea is if Mazraoui stays, he can be like third choice, Amas, and then a new signing, potentially Dogu, on that left-hand side as more of a complete wing-back. The right midfielder is an interesting one because we're looking with someone that can definitely affect things in the final third. Anthony is a good option, but we have, of course, got him transfer listed. We're going to try and we need to get money in, especially if we don't get Champions League football in season 1. So we need to get Anthony out of the way. Diallo is going to be my choice. He's actually played really well in this inverted winger role, but he has also done really well when he's dropped back. So we are going to utilise him as a defensive winger to start with. Anthony as a backup. We've also got, and I imagine it'll have to happen at some point, Diogo Dalot will go in there as a little bit of a third choice. We've also got Garnacho as well, but I want to leave him. I don't think he's going to be able to do that sort of like defensive winger role. So definitely, do we need to win it? I think we do. Play with Diallo, another one, and Garnacho to cover those three positions there, potentially. And then maybe having a Mazraoui, a Dalot, as just as a complete kind of fourth choice backup. I think what we need to make sure is that when we sign players, can they do a couple of different positions? Can we sign a defender that can maybe do a wing-back role and a left centre-back role? Can we sign a midfielder that can do the both holding roles? Can we sign a right midfielder that potentially can do both roles as well? So lots of things to think about, right? This one we kind of covered. We've got Mason Mount that can do it. Bruno can go out there if need be, but it will be Alejandro with Ahmad as the backup. I said Mason Mount, Anthony, Bruno, absolutely fine. No need to change. The AMCL is obviously Bruno. We've got Ericsson, Mount. I am going to look at playing Cobby there a little bit. I would prefer Mason Mount to sort of be second choice. I do think at the moment he's struggling a little bit in there. He's great in tight areas. He's a good dribbler of the ball. It would be good for just to see if Cobby can do that deeper role. I think Cobby struggles a little bit with his physical profile at the moment and the amount of areas that he's got to cover in that holding role. But also the issue is he's not a great progressive passer. He's a great progressive carrier, but he's passing not so much. And I do think in those areas there, he would be pretty good. He would be good out of possession as well because he's a decent presser. Something that Manchester United may look at some point. I just think they're going to have to sign someone in here at some point. And then that potentially might give him less minutes. He's only 19 as well. We're probably overplaying him a little bit. He has been rotated a lot. We just need to get Mason Mount fit. I think Mason Mount would be brilliant in this role here. With his energy, his box-to-box, ball-winning Mazzala, he can kind of do it all at a decent level. I think that fits that numbers 8 profile that Amorim is looking for. And then the strikers. Right, Rashford, we are selling. I'm going to do what Amorim is basically doing now. I am going to have to use him probably in cup games and European games, but I'm literally not interested in him. So I'm going to move him down. My number 1 striker for the season is going to be Joshua Zirkzee. Rasmus Højlund, number 2. I am going to actually try and sell both of them at the end of season 1, and I'll tell you for why. Number 1, Joshua Zirkzee has come into, not form, but he looks a little bit more better in terms of, definitely better in terms of holding the play. However, what we want from that number 9, with that Gyökeres number 9 at Sporting, was someone, he's talked about it actually after the game against Fulham that we've just won. We need someone who can get in behind, run in channels, be a little bit more physical. And even though Rasmus tries to do it, he's not very good at it. He's terrible with his back to goal. I appreciate that he's only young, but I'd expect someone to be technically better from him. He is not going to be a top striker. So that's why Rasmus is going out. And Joshua Zirkzee, just because he doesn't suit the role that we need, it's really tricky to have someone like him. He fitted well in the Thiago Motta side. I think him going back to Juventus and then maybe Vlahovic going either way would be an ideal swap. Someone who does slower in possession, has maybe got wingers in and around him, and it just probably doesn't suit the Manchester United style. So that's what we will be doing. So we'll, in season 1, end of season 1, we'll probably need to go and sign 2 strikers. If we only get 1 in, then we'll have to keep one of them. But the idea is that I'm hopeful that we can get a couple in. Right. Those are my thoughts. Now, to go along with the profile of the players we need, I've created this little shortlist. Now, these are the players that I like, players that I'm not talking football manager at all. These are all players that potentially could do different jobs in different areas. We've got the problematic areas. We've kind of covered all the positions that are needed. And this database will grow, it'll drop, depending, once players kind of move on to another club, we may then move them out and then try and bring others in. But we've got some goalkeepers, couple of wild cards in there as well. I am interested with the situation with Gianni Donnarumma. I feel like Amorim doesn't need an absolute worldie in terms of a goalkeeper who can play with his feet. And this boy is really struggling at PSG with Luis Enrique's kind of style. And you never know what might become a potential transfer. Superb shot stopper, great commanding of his area, etc. A wild card, I know. He's probably the most unrealistic out of the others. We've got some other goalkeepers. One that I'm actually really interested in is James Trafford. He's English as well. Does he have the quality in real life to kick on? I'm trying not to look at these numbers as much. I do like him. He saved a couple of pens against Middlesbrough last week. I think Thomas Tuchel's been to watch him already. Potential goalkeeper and play out from his feet. Yes, he's Manchester City, but who isn't? Loads of players at the moment have come out of that Manchester City academy and not really played. So, yeah, James Trafford potentially could be someone that we're going to look at. With other goalkeepers, Kavar, who was at Manchester United, Trubin at Benfica, Lunin, Jordan Pickford, Costa. Any other suggestions, please put them down in the comments that said that. Goalkeeper position isn't an absolute important, so we do have time to put our heads together, you guys, and come up with some suggestions. Right. Defenders that I like. Jared Branthwaite for that left-sided role. Lacaba, Mickey, Van der Ven. If we lose Martinez, I would love to see him in that left centre-half role. That is my number one pick for that side. Branthwaite potentially because he can do all three roles. And then Gertrude is a player that I really, really like. He's at Leipzig. He didn't get the big move from Feyenoord last season. So he's potentially someone who can look comfortable at right back. I don't think I'll use him at right wing back holding role, but I'm just thinking that wide centre back role, he could be absolutely superb in that role. We have got, as I said, De Ligt and Yoro in there. I think that would be an opportunity signing. Maybe, down the line, Gertrude could maybe be the right. Yoro could be in the middle. I don't know. I don't think it's high importance, but he's definitely someone we should have potentially looked at in the summer. Hincapié at Bayer Leverkusen can do both roles. Murillo, bit of a wild card. Left centre potentially could do it. The two Portuguese boys in silver, Ignacio. There's also Diamande there as well, even though he's Ivory Coast, but obviously a Sporting. Zabani I really like. Matt Gay is that middle centre half potentially. Now we're looking into the wing backs. Michael Caode, he's just signed for Brentford. He's really good in the game. He wasn't actually in the database as well, I don't think. So that was another reason why we changed. There was another player that wasn't in the database. Nuno Mendes, that Man United have been already linked to. Gutierrez at Girona, who would be a realistic signing. Alt Nouri we know about. Jeremy Frimpong as well would be ideal on that right-hand side as that defensive winger. Dorgu, who Manchester United have been linked with, not great in the game now, but obviously we know he's got the potential to be absolutely superb. Probably a decent value as well. And one of my favourites, my wildcard pick, that has at Leipzig, so once again it could go up again in terms of level of club, is David Raum. His numbers are crazy, so direct, loves to get forward on that left-hand side for Leipzig. Yeah, he would be my ideal starting left wing back. We've also got Kirkes in there as well from Bournemouth. Into the midfield, we've got Steve that we've talked about. Samuel Ricky, we know about him as being a holding midfielder at Torino. A lot of big clubs. I'm pretty sure AC Milan might be pretty close to signing him, or we're trying to do a loan to win an obligation to buy this January. I'm not sure if it's been done yet or not. Young profile, can do both roles, probably. His defensive work ain't bad. 13 at tackling. Physical's not too bad, so he could probably do that hybrid role of the 6 and the 8. With Adam Wharton, who's not great in the game. Belieber would be a tremendous volante to go alongside Agate in maybe bigger games. Could do the Agate role in other games as well as a rotation option. Adam Wharton, not amazing in terms of the game. He doesn't quite kick on and his value is already massive. I can't believe Manchester United did not try and sign him for that price when he was already living in the area. Absolutely crazy. We've got some Marc Caicedo as a player at Barcelona. That's really good. I'm always thinking, which players will become available at Barcelona because of their financial struggles. Joe Bellingham, just as I don't know why I've got him in there, to be honest. He's not absolutely amazing. I don't think he's top level in the game. He does a half decent job as maybe a mid-table Premier League team, so I don't know why he's in there. Now we're looking into the attacking players. Dejan Kulusevski, I think, would be absolutely ideal on this right-hand side. Would be a better option than Garnacho. That would be my option. Premier League proven as well. Coming off that right-hand side, allowed a Diallo or a Frimpong to go around the outside. And yeah, I actually really like him. He can play in the middle as well. He could go on the other side. He could, he's done various different jobs for Tottenham. But that would be my little pick, so I've got my eye on him. Cole Palmer is a little bit of a wild card. I've literally only got him because it's Chelsea. You don't know what's going to happen with him. And he is a big Manchester United fan. That is the really out there signing that we probably won't be able to do. It'll only if something happens at Chelsea where they really drop off and we can have an opportunist signing. Florian Wirtz, we know about him. Potential. We need that probably a long-term replacement for Fernandes. Mio, who's at Stuttgart, can do the right side. inverted winger. Rooney Bargi, who I kind of thought about doing the defensive winger role potentially. Jamie Bino Gittens, I thought would be really good as a defensive winger on this side. Not amazing in the game, but that's the sort of profile Amorim will want for his wing backs. Okun Koku, he could do the 10. He would be really good alongside Agate as well. He's playing a little bit higher for Benfica this year in a 4-3-3, but last year at Feyenoord kind of sat in as a 4-2-3-1 and played as pretty much as a register. Super talented. He would be really good as that 6 and 8 option. Striker potential, Liam Delap. English, I think he has everything to be the next English starting striker. You know, Watkins is too old, Turley's too old, Rashford not good enough. It's probably in his hands when Harry Kane goes after the World Cup. If he can perform, be nice to Ipswich to get relegated, and then we'll see where we're at with him. He's not amazing in the game, but once again, we're not looking at the FM statistics and attributes. We're looking at real life scenarios. Would be really good at that number 9 role. Cherki is someone who is relatively cheap actually in real life. I do actually really like him. Could be a little bit of a wild card. Could maybe long term be a replacement for Fernandes instead of having that number 10 who's just sort of like a number 10. He can play it out wide. More of a winger role, inverted winger role. Yeah. I just think that's an opportunity signing because of the value. Victor Boniface as well, 23 years old, ideal that number 9 slot that you'd expect Amorim to like. Other players as well that we're going to look at is Mateus Cunha. Depending on if Wolves probably get relegated will be the issue on that, but it's definitely a player that Man United would like. Can play in either of them 2 sort of like 10 roles. Can play as a striker as well. We know Isak is ideal for most teams in the world. We will keep our eye on him, but Man United are not going to be into position at the moment with the amount of players that we need to sign, trying to spend, 70-80% of a budget on a player costing over 100 million. That's not going to work. So we'll keep our eye on him, but very unlikely. And then Victor Gyökeres, we know, that would be an ideal replacement. The only thing is that it has been mentioned a little bit that, Brighton let him go. But then sometimes things can come back. He maybe just wasn't the right time to go and leave. To leave Brighton for $1 million kind of shows like he would be better than what we've got now. That's the problem. He would be better than what we've got now. And the last one is Victor Osimhen at now Galatasaray, but still, contracted to Napoli. He's doing okay. I think being out there in a league that he maybe doesn't fancy as much has maybe not helped his kind of progression this year. However, number 9, physicality, pace, work the channels, I would be happy to take him as well. So that is how we're looking in terms of transfer potential for the season. We need to keep getting Champions League football. We've got no money to start in this first transfer window. We'll hopefully make a little bit of progress throughout the season. So we're now going to go through season 1. We'll go through halfway of the season. We'll see where we're at. What can be done potentially in terms of transfers. Soon as January the 1st comes, we're going to look at getting rid of Rashford, Casemiro, Eriksen, Lindelof. Those are players, and Anthony as well, players that we can potentially get a little bit of money in for, and then we can maybe hopefully bring in that left wing back, maybe even some other player to fit one of the roles that's needed. Right, here we are, halfway through the season. We've just got to more than halfway through the season. We've just finished the transfer window, so I thought it was a good time to come back and kind of show you where we're at. So the league position isn't bad. We're in 5th place. Crystal Palace started the season extremely well, but have dropped off a little bit. We are 4 points off Arsenal. We've lost 7 games. Pretty much, look, Chelsea, West Ham, Bournemouth, Brighton, Tottenham, Everton, all away, and then a really disappointing 2-1 at home to Spurs. We've had good wins, though. Loads of clean sheets in there, which is good. A few draws. Decent draw at Arsenal and Spurs. So I'm happy with that. I think the need for this season is to finish 4th. Champions League football should keep us in a job. Europa has been decent. We need to get to a final. That is my backup plan. If we can't get 5th as on the coefficient in terms of extra European place, that would be a backup as well in case we drop off a little bit. We need to try and win that the best we can. The Emirates FA Cup, a bit of a nightmare. We've just played Manchester City in the 4th round. Thank you, Harry Maguire, for making it 3-3, 86 and 90 plus 5. Johan Bakayoko actually was one of my options to play out on that right-hand side, but he already went to Manchester City in the January transfers for 63 million. Carabao Cup, an absolute disaster. You either go to the final and win it, but the worst thing you can do is go all the way through, then play your strongest team in a two-legged semi-final when in the middle of January and February it's extremely busy, and that's what happened to us. We ended up drawing the first tie, which was an absolute gutter. They scored, 4 shots, 4 on target. We had Anana out on international duty. I decided to go with Tom Heaton, and as you can see, it backfired. 4 shots, 4 on target, 3 goals. We had an XG of 1.92, 3-3. And then in the second leg, we were 2-0 down, 2 goals from Matt O'Reilly in terms of 28 and 32. We responded. We had a little bit of a go before half-time, but we're knocked out. The worst possible point to lose in a Carabao Cup. So, transfers. And as you can see, the only noticeable out so far has been Anthony. We managed to get a nice little bit of chunk of cash for him. 23.5. There's a fee. We actually got an intermediary to do a little bit of work for us as well. We tried that on Rashford and Casemiro. Barcelona were the only team that came in, by the way, for Rashford. They bid 5.25 million for him. So I rejected that, of course. 23 million. We're happy with that. Manchester United also then gave us a little bit of a boost in the transfers. They put it up to about 40 million we got to spend. So we bought 2 wingbacks. Now, the first one we bought was Patrick Dogu. Highly likely that he's going to be a Manchester United signing anyway in this January transfer window. And I thought, yeah, it makes sense to get him in. Half a season, we'll just play him. Not made a great start for us, but at a price of £26 million. Pretty happy with that. All in, all up front. And then the other side, I thought, we need to bring in that right wing back. Jerry Frimpong doesn't have that release clause anymore. 34.5 that he had in the earlier version of the game. His release clause now is like 70 million. We don't have the facilities for that. So we have brought in Michael Cahill, who's actually signed for Brentford in real life. It'd be really interesting to see how well he kicks on. And if Manchester United end up going for this dude in 18 months' time when he's had a tremendous 18 months at Brentford. But it was more the value. £20 million can be a little bit of a rotation option with Diallo and Dalot on that right-hand side. And fingers crossed, we might not need to strengthen in there again. And also, if we do change and go with 2 sort of like out-and-out wing-backs, he can do that role a lot better than what a Diallo can. So those are the ins. Let's see how we finished at the end of season 1. Woof! And at the absolute skin of our teeth, we managed to get Champions League football. The coefficient hasn't been done yet, but it's highly likely that Liverpool will join us in that. A Liverpool that sacked Slot very early on and went for Zinedine Zidane. And as you can see, West Ham under Julian Lopetegui ended up finishing second on 77 points. So we've done all right. We've got Champions League football. That's massive in terms of money. We need to get Champions League football now on a regular basis. It's going to be so tough because Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham generally all have good seasons. After that, have loads of money to spend. A Newcastle side that sacked Eddie Howe and got in Jose Mourinho. And a Tottenham side that sacked Ange Postecoglou and now have Roberto Mancini. So that will be a little bit tougher as we go. But if we have a good season in terms of transfers, we're going to alter the tactic as well for season 2 when I tell you about the issues that we've kind of had. We've scored 69 goals, conceded 45. I'm kind of happy-ish with that. We've had a stinker against Arsenal, which hasn't helped. Final game of the season, we needed a point and we got absolutely smashed by Arsenal. So maybe that puts us, without that daft result, we might have been okay. We've had good spells. We've had bad spells. This in here was a bad spell. And I had to talk about my job for a little bit. So we managed to avoid that by actually getting Manager of the Month during February. Despite losing to Manchester City, I did rotate the squad a fair bit because I thought we were going to lose. But we picked up a winner away at Anfield, which is always good. A Joshua Zirkzee 90+2 winner. A 7-1 win against Leicester. A decent draw against Villa. And then a winning against Brighton was enough to get me Manager of the Month and probably helped me save my job. Now, the Europa was a bit of a shambles. We got through to the last 16. We went into Aston Villa and we got absolutely smashed. Absolutely smashed. So that meant the second leg was kind of a bit of a damp squid. We didn't even score to the second half. We dominate. Look at that. This has happened a lot in some of the games. We dominate games, 3.13 XG and only 1 goal. We definitely need to sign an out-and-out striker. So the season statistics, and we're not going to focus too much on them. We're trying to do this real-life feel, but it was important to see, I think, for you guys to see how well the players have done in certain roles. We did change the tactic towards the end of the season. Instead of going with a complete forward, we've gone with an advanced forward because that is more Amorim. in terms of what we want from that number 9. Joshua Zirkzee's actually done okay, 21 goals in 36 starts. You would maybe expect that if you'd have played throughout the season that we'd expected. And then Erasmus Højlund has done all right, 14 goals in 19 starts, 11 a sub. Yeah, that's respectable. We said he is not good enough, I don't think, in real life. So we're going to try and avoid these the best we can. We're going to try and bring the age profiling down, you know, Tom Eaton, Eriksen, Casemiro. Maguire's going to be the only one, really, and Bruno. Luke Shaw, we're not really bothering with. I don't think he's, you know, in the game, he has a lot of sell-on value. And if I transfer listed him, I guarantee El Etihad, probably a Newcastle, would come in and try and spend. Tottenham would come in and spend lots of money on him. But I just don't think it's realistic. So my idea is to keep him till the end of his contract and then release him on a free. And I said during that time, he can, if we get 20 games out of him a season at left centre-back, so be it. Average rating wise, only four permanent players, 3 permanent players, 2 permanent players, because Bayinda, Eriksen and Lacey do not count. Onana, to be fair, he's bang on 7, but a disappointing season. Our standout player has been Amad Diallo. He's had a good number in terms of, 9 goals, 5 assists. He's probably on that about now already for Manchester United. His season statistics as well for us. He's played 20 games at right midfield and scored 8 goals and 5 assists. So he hasn't done bad from there. Garnacho himself went through a good phase and then dropped off, but he's got 19 goal contributions. Obviously better playing a little bit higher up than what maybe the Garnacho, a little bit better than what the Amad Diallo can do at right midfield. So with that, the squad has got some work to be done, and we've said we're going to try and potentially get out Bayinda. Lindelof, who I couldn't sell in January, is leaving on a free. Eriksen's leaving on a free. Sancho money will get in. Rashford is wanted, but by Barcelona, they've got no money. We're going to transfer list Zirkzee and Højlund. We're going to transfer list Malacia and see what can be done. And then based on that, we'll then do a little bit of a tactical rebuild. Now, the tactic is actually going to change a little bit. We've done this a little bit and trying to bring Diallo back, but the idea is we need to be more aggressive. I don't know what it is, despite us being high line, high press, I've changed the tempo as well. I've changed the passing to help us play out numbers, but our possession numbers have not been amazing. I wonder where we actually are. Some of the games, we're in 6th. I suppose we're doing all right, but some of the games, like, we do really well, and some of the games we have like 35%, like in random games against like Palace and Brentford, we've had low possession numbers in certain games. So I want us to be a little bit more controlling in games, but I do want to get more out of these wingers. So we are actually going to try and play 2 out-and-out wingers. We may move it to defensive wingers, and I think something like this, as you can see with the roaming playmaker, to get a little bit more technical in there, advance forward, still the right-hand side coming round. We may drop to this again and have them as 2 wing-backs in certain games. So we might have like a tactic where we have, maybe play away in Europe, away at the big boys. Unless we're absolutely flying with this, we may just control it a little bit. Good idea to maybe bring in a Dalot or a Mazraoui on one side. Maybe have a Kayode as a right wing-back rather than a Diallo, just to help us a little bit more defensively. It will also help as well in rotation options with Garnacho and Diallo if we just alter this role a little bit. As I said, all the tactics will be available for the Patreons. Okay, that is Season 1. That is a lot to digest. Give me your thoughts down in the comments. Do not think about Football Manager when you're thinking about signings. Which strikers are we going to potentially look at? Because I am going to try and sign 1, 2, depending on if we can get Højlund and Zirkzee out the door. Interestingly as well, Wolves have been relegated, so that gives us the option of bringing in El Nouri, who can't do the winger role in the game, which is a little bit frustrating. He probably could, but we could definitely use him as a wing-back. He's got a release clause of 29 mil, and interestingly, where is he? Mateus Cunha has a £22 million. Now, I'm not expecting him to be the number 9 starting striker, but for him to potentially be an inverted winger on that side, can be an attacking midfielder in here, can play out on the left if need be, could even be a winger on that right-hand side and be a little bit of a backup. I think he would be a really good option to bring in and then try and bring in that new goal scorer, that goal getter, number 9 for Manchester United. All right, the next episode will be out probably Thursday, so stay tuned for that. Season 2. Tactical, rebuild, Amorim, whatever you want to call it. We're up and running to get us through to FM25. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out that Patreon. Muchly appreciated, and we'll see you later.